Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this World Health Summit. My name is Lisa Blaisdell, and I am so thrilled and honored to be speaking with Dr. Neal Barnard this morning. This is really exciting for me as I have been following you for years, Dr. Barnard. But for anyone who may not be familiar with who you are a medical doctor and also the president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, which is a huge role and a very important role right now in our country. You're the founder of the Barnard Medical Center. You're also an associate professor of medicine at George Washington University School of Medicine. You're a New York Times best-selling author, and I'm thrilled you have your book with you today, all around reversing diabetes. And you've also been featured in the recent documentary that I'm sure many people have seen, including my family, What the Health. And when my teenagers watched What the Health, they said, Mom, we need to go to the store. We need to buy everything other than meat. So I'm just really thrilled to have you here this morning, Dr. Barnard. You've dedicated your life to this work. And what I would love to learn from you that I don't know is you're a medically trained physician. What led you into this path and this role of spending your life on the side of prevention and diet versus the role of treating disease?
Yeah. Well, hi, Lisa. Thank you for including me. It actually got started a little bit before I went to medical school. I grew up in North Dakota, and I had moved to Minneapolis, and I had a job in the basement of a Minneapolis hospital where I was the autopsy assistant. And so when people died in the hospital, the pathologist would do an autopsy, and I was there to assist him. And although my job was really to hold things and weigh things and stuff like that, it is quite a graphic learning environment. And you learn all the things that you don't want to do in your own life because they're dangerous. And one day we had a guy who died in the hospital of a massive heart attack, probably from eating hospital food, but that's another story.
Yeah.
And so the pathologist wanted to examine the heart. And to do that, you take what looks like a garden clipper, and you just cut through the ribs on this side, and you cut through the ribs on this side, and you pull this wedge of ribs off the chest, and you set it beside the body, and that exposed the heart. And so he then showed me the coronary arteries and explained that they're called coronary because they crown the heart. And he sliced one open and showed me the atherosclerotic plaque inside. And I have to say, it makes quite an impression.
Yeah, I bet.
And then when you look to the carotid arteries to the brain, the same story. And then when the exam was finished, he left the room, and I had to clean everything up. And so I would clean up the body, and I put the ribs back in the chest and sewed up the skin. And when I was done, I went up to the cafeteria where they were serving ribs for lunch. And I want to tell you, it looked like a dead body, and it smelled like a dead body. And I started to realize it is a dead body.
Yeah.
And it's not a human body, but I am not about to eat this thing. And I didn't become a vegetarian on the spot, but I could not eat that. Wow. And as time went on, I learned more and more about the links between health and the food that we eat. But also, I have to say, I was also taken by what I might call the broader issues about the issues affecting animals. And for me, that was a bit of a revelation because I grew up as I say, in North Dakota.
Yes.
My dad grew up in the cattle business. My uncles and cousins were all still in the cattle business. I hunted, I drove cows to slaughter. And I started to realize that there's something wrong with this picture from the animals standpoint as well as the health standpoint. And of course, not long after that, environmentalists started to say that the only environmentally appropriate choice is to get the animals off your plate. And since that time, evidence on all of these areas has accumulated and has become quite compelling to me. And I'm now at the point where I kind of wonder, what is it that people don't get if they haven't made that choice themselves? It's sort of like if you know somebody who's been smoking,
right?
And it's been 20 years by now, and you think, what are you thinking? You've got to quit. And if you discover that people are still eating animal products, and you think, how is it that you can't have put two and two together, that it's bad for your health, that the animals are not happy volunteers in this process, and the environment is not sort of just theoretical.
Right.
So anyway, that was how it began. And of course, now we are really busy. In 1985, I set up this group called the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, which is about the least memorable name you could ever have, but that's what we called it. And it's still called that today. And we started doing clinical trials where we would put different diets to the test. And so if people who follow a vegan diet happen to be slimmer and healthier and have lower cholesterols than other people, well, why not put it to the test for people who aren't vegan and start them and see if these benefits will happen? Right. And so we began doing a lot of trials, and it's quite astounding, I have to say. We would bring in people. In 2005, we published the results of a study where we brought in people who were healthy, but they were overweight. It was 64 women. They were all moderately to severely overweight. They'd all done every diet known to humanity. They'd all done Atkins and South Beach and Nutrisystem and Jenny Craig and everything else. And they'd all lost weight and put it back and lost weight and put it back. And they all felt stuck and frustrated. So we wanted to see what would a vegan diet do for them. And it was a head-to-head test against what you might call sort of a prudent diet that was not vegetarian. It was actually called the National Cholesterol Education Program diet, but it was the kind of the healthy diet that the government recommended back at that time. And the vegan diet didn't have any rules about how much you eat. You could eat it as much as you wanted to. There was no limit on carbs. There was no limit on calories. But there were two rules. No animal products. Okay. And also we kept oils really low, and that's important too. You don't want to have grease all over your food. But that was it. No animal products, keep oils low. And over the first 14 weeks of the trial, the average person in the vegan group lost 13 pounds, which was substantially more than the people on the other diet. Wow. And then we tracked them for 2 more years. And, the normal experience of dieters is you lose weight and you put it back on, right, after 3 or 4 months. Well, we tracked our people for 2 more years after the end of the study, and they were skinnier at the end of 2 years, and they were, they just kept losing weight. And whereas in the control group, they lost the weight, they put it right back on. So the beauty of that is you're not cutting calories, you're making a qualitative shift. Right.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, I mean, you're changing the type of food you eat. And that if you eat a different type of food, it changes your appetite control. It changes your metabolism, and all those things are good. So then, predicated on that, and stop me if I'm rambling on too long.
No, this is great.
NIH funded us to do the same kind of study, but now it was for people who had diabetes. Everybody had been diagnosed with diabetes. It was 99 people. They all had type 2 diabetes, and the average person had the disease for about 8 years. So they were well into the disease. And the control group now was getting the standard diabetes diet that was in vogue at that time, and still used a lot today, which is if you're overweight, let's cut calories. Right. So, and this was standard practice and still is in some places, even though I would not recommend this, but this was the standard practice. A person needs to lose weight, so you give them a menu that adds up to 500 calories less than normal for them. Okay. So you normally 2,000 calories, here's your menu, it adds up to 1,500 calories, and you're going to lose weight if you follow it. And then the other thing was that it was the control diet was designed to keep carbohydrates fairly constant from day to day and throughout the day. That was the control diet. The experimental diet was a vegan diet, no animal products, we kept oils low. And carbohydrates actually went up because you're eating sweet potatoes and you're eating rice and beans and noodles and all kinds of stuff. However, we use something to help people pick the healthiest carbohydrates. It's called the glycemic index. Yep. And the glycemic index was invented by David Jenkins at the University of Toronto. And it's a really simple system where you look at foods that have more effect or less effect on your blood sugar. Right. White bread has a pretty good effect pretty strong effect, I should say, on your blood sugar. Rye bread has less. Pumpernickel bread has less. So you eat the pumpernickel. Cold cereals have a big effect on your blood sugar, especially if they have a toy inside. Yes. So don't have that. Have the bran cereal, have the oatmeal, whatever. So the experimental diet was vegan, low fat, and low glycemic index. That was it. No rules on how much you eat, no rules on carbs. You know, eat all you want. And this completely
And
freaked out our
diabetics are
system.
trained to stay away from the carbs, right?
Right.
And
And
I
so they
have
were
diabetes
afraid.
in my family, not even any fruit. Like they're really, that's in their mindset, is none of that.
It is. It's hardwired into their brains.
Yes.
And we said, no, eat all the fruit you want.
Wow.
You could eat spaghetti.
Wow.
That's right. Now, you can't put the meat sauce on your spaghetti, but you can put the tomato sauce on your spaghetti.
Okay.
And we don't want you to have the Alfredo sauce. We don't even want you to take that olive oil and go glug, 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 because it's vegan and low in fat.
Okay.
But you can have an arrabbiata sauce with sauteed mushrooms, and you could artichoke hearts. You can live it up. It can be nice food, but it's going to be all vegan. Anyway, make a long story short, just like in the previous study, people lost weight. They lost weight really well. They lost more weight, not a lot more, but somewhat more weight in the vegan group than in the control group. And the reason that's important is that the control group was trying to lose weight. They had a menu that cut the calories, but the vegans who were eating all the pancakes they wanted to lost more weight than the people in the control group. But what's more important is not only did they lose weight, their cholesterol came down and their blood sugar control got better. And we measure that with a test called A1C, or hemoglobin A1C, and it dropped 3 times more in the vegan group than the other group. And it just makes you wonder, why the heck are people counting carbohydrate grams and cutting calories when you get better results by eliminating the animal products and having healthy, high carbohydrate foods? It's just a better way all around. So we've done a lot of other studies too, where we've looked at more advanced diabetes, where people have complications like neuropathy. That improves too. Some people, their diabetes will flat out go away. The longer you have had the diabetes, the less likely that is to happen.
Right.
You get a person early on, and the diabetes is quite often reversible. It just goes away. So it's a good thing. And then we've also explored how to administer this and how to help people adopt it, because your average person who hears about a vegan diet, they might imagine that means I wear tie-dye and like folk music. And, they're not too, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So it's important for them to know, it's important to know that a diet might change your health, but it's not going to change your personality. So you don't have to like folk music or tie-dye or any of that kind of stuff. And it becomes extremely easy. It's much easier than quitting smoking. And it's kind of a cool adventure where you're at the store and you're discovering a whole bunch of products you didn't know existed.
Right.
And new tastes. And by the way, let me mention in the introduction, you mentioned my new book, which I want to show you.
Okay.
This is Dr. Neal Barnard's cookbook for reversing diabetes. And I wrote this, and as you'll see, the recipes were done by Drina Burton, who is a real genius in the kitchen. And she did a great job with this. And we have lots and lots of recipes, beautiful food photographs here. It's really a nice book. So I hope people will pick it up and get 20 copies and give 19 of them away. Give 19 of them away to people who need to lose weight or control their diabetes.
That's awesome.
If you don't have diabetes, you'll still like it. The recipes are great.
So can I ask a question that I get all the time, and I'm sure you get all the time, and your whole movement gets all the time, is where am I going to get my protein? You're not going to get enough protein. I mean, when I started eating plant-based like 6 years ago, my parents were like, oh my gosh, you're going to wither away from lack of protein, Lisa. So can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. The same people who think that a black cat crossing their path causes bad luck, or if you walk under a ladder, the rest of your day is not going to go well. Those are people who, when they stumble upon a vegan, say, where do you get your protein? It's the same mentality. In other words, it's superstition. And it's dietitians just wring their hands, because they have been saying since the 1950s that people on plant-based diets get more than enough protein. But let's walk through this for people who are new to this and have the same question or not too sure what to say.
Right.
If you take a rhinoceros or an elephant or a giraffe or a bull or a cow, these animals have huge musculature. They're getting protein somewhere. They're all vegan. They don't eat ice cream. They don't eat cheese. They don't eat meat. They don't eat chicken. They don't eat fish. They don't eat wild-caught salmon from Whole Foods. They're eating simple plant foods. Well, how can that be? Well, if you were to send some broccoli to a laboratory, they would say it's between 30 and 50% pure protein. What do you mean? Plants have protein? Of course. If you look at a protein molecule under a microscope, it's a string of beads. A protein molecule is like a string of beads. Each bead is an amino acid, and together they make protein. And so you eat the protein, whether it's from broccoli or something else, and you break apart that string into individual amino acids, and they go into your blood, and you use them to make your muscles or whatever it is. And you don't need a lot, you need some. But plants have a lot of it. Vegetables have a surprising amount. Beans have a lot of it. Grains have a lot. And to give you some numbers, the US government would say if you are an adult woman, you need about 46 grams of protein per day. If you're a full-grown man, you need about 56 grams of protein per day. Now, there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. The truth is you don't need that much, but they've included a margin for error. So men, 56, women, 46. All right, here's an experiment. Tomorrow, I want you to eat, let's say you eat 2,000 calories a day, which that'd be pretty normal for an American adult. Tomorrow, eat nothing but broccoli. Eat 2,000 calories of just broccoli. No, you're not going to do this, but if you did, would you get your 46 grams of protein per day? If you're a man, would you get your 56? The truth is, 2,000 calories of broccoli gives you 146 grams of pure protein. The next day, skip the broccoli, let's have lentils. If you eat 2,000 calories of just lentils, no meat, no eggs, no protein shakes, only lentils, 2,000 calories a day, you get 157 grams of pure protein.
Wow.
The next day, so here's my point. You see, there's a lot of protein in plant foods. Now, it's best to not eat just broccoli or just lentils. And of course, your taste won't let you. Your brain is hardwired to seek out variety. And if you get a variety, you get all the different amino acids. Another myth is that plants have incomplete proteins. What they mean is that there are certain amino acids that your body can't make, and they're called essential amino acids. And the old mythology was that plants are deficient in amino acids. Actually, most plants have all of them. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, they have all of them. And yet, even so, if you eat a variety of plants, you're going to get a really good mixture of them, as good as getting egg protein or meat protein or anything like that. And in fact, better, because along with the protein in meat, there's cholesterol, which you don't need and will hurt you. There's saturated fat. There's the occasional salmonella and tapeworm. Now, if you eat broccoli, that's not going to be there. With broccoli, what you get along with it is beta-carotene and calcium and vitamin C. How much vitamin C is there in your chicken sandwich? 0. Because you're designed to eat plants. So anyway, that's the long-winded answer, but there is loads of protein. And if you are the most accomplished Olympic athlete, or you can be an Olympic swimmer, and you're burning thousands of calories every day. If you eat plant foods, you will still get all the protein that you need just from plants. Complete non-issue. Now, there are some issues. Calcium is an issue because you're not eating milk or dairy products. But cows don't make calcium. The calcium that's in milk came from the ground. There's calcium in the ground. The roots of grass pulled that calcium up into the grass. And the cow came along and ate it. And some of that calcium ends up in the cow's milk. And if you drink milk, you absorb about 30% of the calcium, and you poop out about 70% of the calcium. You don't, sorry to be a little bit graphic, but you don't absorb it. Okay, so don't do that. Instead, let's eat the green vegetables directly, hopefully not grass. Let's say humans might not eat grass, they might eat kale or collards or broccoli or Brussels sprouts or whatever. The calcium in the ground got into the broccoli, and you eat that, and now you're going to absorb the majority of it. Maybe 50%, 60%, depends on the vegetable. So the idea that you need dairy products for calcium is this weird cultural aberration that maybe 10,000 years ago, people figured out how to make a cow stand still, and they took their milk, and they're just getting the calcium that came out of the ground. And some of it gets into the milk, and a little bit of it you absorb. Not a good way.
That doesn't even bring into fact the whole conversation around the hormones and all of the other things that poor cow has been subjected to, that then if someone drinks the milk is also going to be ingesting.
Well, yeah, and by the way, speaking of hormones, it's you're right, but it's not just hormones that were injected into the cow. Um, there are farmers who use bovine growth hormone, or
Mm.
they use it because you get more milk per unit feed, and it creates all kinds of problems, as you know. But that's not in my view, not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is the cow herself. Um,
Mm.
Cows. Can we go into this a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
I gotta say, I was so taken by the issues with dairy. When we were doing our diabetes trial for NIH, people they would do great. You know, they would go vegan and they would lose weight and they would come down on their medications, and sometimes the diabetes would go away. They're great. But some of them would say, I really miss cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically cheese, not
Mm-hmm.
meat, not ice cream. It was cheese.
Yes,
And
I hear
so
that too.
I was wondering, what's this about? And so I looked into it and I found that cheese can be addicting, and we found out why, and is bad for your health. It can be fattening. So I wrote this book. Here's another book, Show and Tell, called
Ooh.
The Cheese Trap, which is all about how breaking free from cheese helps you lose weight. So anyway, let me just give you the quick part about hormones. I think this is important for people to know. Cows don't make milk at all until they have been pregnant and given birth. And I know this is kind of like biology 101, but no mammal makes milk until they have been pregnant and they gave birth, because the milk is for their offspring.
Right.
So to keep cows producing milk maximally, they are impregnated every year. The farmer doesn't do this personally. The farmer has farm hands, who impregnate the cows with artificial insemination, and it's done in a particularly grotesque way, which I'd be happy to tell you about, but they do this every year. And a cow's gestation is about 9 months. So every year the cows are pregnant for about 9 months out of 12.
Okay.
In other words, if
Wow.
you're drinking milk,
Wow.
chances are that milk came from a pregnant cow. A
Mm.
pregnant cow makes estrogen, the female sex hormone. It's a group of hormones.
Yeah.
The estrogens get into the blood plasma. From there they go into the milk. And so you could take a pail of milk that just came out of the cow, you send it to a lab, they could tell you how far along in pregnancy that cow is.
Wow.
There are traces of milk, of hormones in the milk. And the government will not allow any farm to call milk hormone free. The farmers who didn't inject bovine growth hormone said, we want to say it's hormone free. The government says you can't. Cows all make hormones, and you're drinking hormones when you drink milk.
Yeah.
Now, they will correctly say it's not very much. It's just a little bit of estrogen that you're feeding to your son or your daughter when they drink milk. It's not very much. However, researchers in Rochester, New York, looked at men in a fertility clinic, and they were surprised to find that the more cheese men ate, the lower their sperm counts.
Wow.
Now, what's that about? And not only that, their sperm did not move as well, and their shape was distorted. And they started to develop this theory that even though it's just a trace of milk, if you're consuming it every day, the estrogens will affect your fertility. And milk, as it is converted into cheese, the fat content is greatly concentrated in the cheese, and the hormones go with the fat. So then what's more worrisome, researchers in California looked at women who had previously been treated for breast cancer, and found that their risk of dying of the cancer was 49% higher in the group that consumed one or more servings of high-fat dairy a day. That's like butter or cheese. If you consumed one or more servings of high-fat dairy per day, compared to those women who consumed none or no more than, say, a half a serving, the difference in risk of dying of your cancer was a 49% difference. You know, the women who consume the most high-fat dairy had a 49% higher mortality from their cancer compared to the other women. So again, I'm quite prepared to believe that the amount of hormones in milk they're small. But if you take the milk and you put it into cheese and you concentrate the fat, and the hormones go with the fat, and the average American, catch this, the average American consumes 35 pounds of cheese last year, again this year, again next year, which is, by the way, 65,000 calories. So they're not just getting, that's right. Am I cheering you up? They're not just getting.
I have to say, I will cheat now and then. I never eat cheese anymore, ever. I've broken the addiction, but I know a lot of people that struggle. So I'm so thankful that you're talking about this. And I'm going to encourage your book for people who really struggle, because it's, it's, it's clearly it's an issue, and this is huge. I mean, how many young couples are struggling with their fertility? Way more
Absolutely.
than 100 years ago, 50 years ago. It's this huge issue now. And
There was a young woman named Catherine Lawrence who I described in the book. She was she was in the Air Force. In 2003, she was one of the first people to go into Iraq because she designed military bases. And when she got out and she went back home to Louisiana, her friends all said, what did you miss, when you were overseas? And of course she missed cheese and, all the cheese snacks and macaroni and cheese. And she really tucked in. In fact, a friend of hers gave her a whole case of those macaroni and cheese dinners. And 48 days straight, she had macaroni and cheese because she loved it so much. Well, she gained weight and she developed a condition called endometriosis,
oh, yes,
which is abdominal pain.
yes,
That comes because the cells that are from the lining of the uterus have escaped out into the abdomen. Anyway, things were getting worse and worse for her. It's excruciatingly painful and it leads to infertility. And her doctor said, there's only one way that I can control your symptoms, which is you need a hysterectomy. And she said, wait a minute, whoa, I don't know if I want that. As things progressed, a friend said, let's try a completely vegan diet. And because cancer patients have been doing this because it's a way of controlling hormones.
Yep.
So she went on a low-fat vegan diet. Her endometriosis got better and better and better. Her symptoms got better and better. And her doctor did a laparoscopy, a follow-up laparoscopy to where you make a little incision in the abdomen, you look around. And he sewed her up and sent her to the recovery room and went out to the waiting room to talk to her husband. And the doctor said, it's really something. Her endometriosis is practically gone.
Wow.
And her husband said, well, she went vegan and she's been following a really healthy diet and she's felt better ever since.
Wow.
And the doctor said, no, endometriosis is not caused by food. And a diet change is never going to make it go away. There's just one explanation for this. This is a miracle. So anyway, she never had the operation. Her endometriosis went away. She now has 3 kids. And Catherine has joined us as a Food for Life instructor.
That's awesome.
For the Vision Committee. And she now shares this message. And she lives in Dallas now. And she shares this message with a lot of other women who want to take control of their biology. And the point I'm making is that you have industries that are dedicated to selling you cheese. Yeah. And they don't tell you that this was a cruel product on a farm where the cows are artificially inseminated. Their calves are taken away at birth. They lose all their children every time because of the we can have the milk. The male calves are then killed for veal. The females grow up to replace the mother when she's killed at about 4. A cow normally lives to be about 20. On dairy farms, they live to be about 4 because they kill them for meat. The dairy industry is just a really slow meat industry.
Yeah, it is.
So it's a cruel industry, and chemically what you're doing to your body or what you're doing to your children, when you give them grilled cheese and so forth, you're giving them hormones, you're giving them a lot of fat, a lot of cholesterol, and a lot of salt. But people don't think about that. They think that there's salt in potato chips. Well, there is. But if you took cheddar cheese, there's more salt in cheddar cheese ounce per ounce than there is in potato chips. Wow. If you took Velveeta, it's about 2 or 3 times more. Yeah. So, skip all that stuff. Anyway, that's the cheese.
Gosh, okay, good.
Rena did the recipes for this too, so we've got great healthy recipes for you.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Barnard, you are a wealth. I could talk to you all day. I love this conversation so much. I'm re-inspired all over again. How can people learn more? So people are watching this and they're like, okay, I'm fired up. I really want to shift and change. I can't freak out my family. How can they start to adapt a plant-based lifestyle? They've lived, maybe a traditional, meat-based, diet. What resources do you recommend for them to start making shifts and changes?
Don't start making changes. Jump in. When you go to the pool and you agonizingly walk down the steps into the pool, don't do that. Go to the deep end and just jump in.
Okay.
So the vegan diet, I want you to jump in. But here's how we're going to do it. Here's how I would suggest. Take a week. And during this week, don't take anything out of your diet. but take a piece of paper and write down 4 categories on your paper from top to bottom: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, and leave yourself some room to write under each one. And for this next 7 days, your assignment is think about foods that have no animal products that you would like to try. So, okay, I'll have oatmeal with maybe some cinnamon and raisins, or I'll have blueberry pancakes for breakfast, or I've never tried veggie sausage. I wonder if it's any good. So for this week, go to the store and buy it. All you're doing for the next 7 days is finding foods that have no animal products to see which ones you like. If you don't like it, cross them off. Like, I never tried almond milk on my cereal. Let me try it. Then after 7 days, you'll have all kinds of ideas, and you'll have tried them and they're good. Now for the next 3 weeks, do it all vegan all the time and with no cheating, because now you'll see what the diet really will do for you. If you only do it halfway, you'll never know. Right. At the end of that time, you'll feel better and your taste will have changed. And I got a resource for you. Go to our website, which is pcrm.org. That stands for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, pcrm.org.
Okay.
Look at the Kickstart. The Kickstart gives you a free email every day with menus, recipes, and cooking videos. Every day for 21 days. It starts fresh every week. It's in English and Spanish and Mandarin. We have a program in Japanese. We've got a program for people from India. So jump in. 600,000 people have done it. I want you to be the next one. And it will change your life. Share this with other people. Give your friends a copy of my cookbook.
Yes.
Try it yourself. Try the cheese trap. Change the world. Make some noise.
Thank you.
You're never going to look back.
You are changing the world, Dr. Barnard. Thank you so much. This was so inspiring and enlightening, and I so appreciate the work that you're doing, and I so appreciate your time this morning. I know you're busy. I can't wait to go to your site and get your books and just mix it up and continue to grow and learn. So thank you so much again, and look forward to bumping up to you in this work that we do together, and we can do it. We can do it. I have hope.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all you're doing. And thanks
for
including me.
Have a great day. Okay, bye-bye.